Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Burn Rate Baristas. I'm Kate.
I'm Sahan.
And we are joined by a very special guest today. We're here with our friend Ren. Ren, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hello, I'm Ren. I lead customer experience at TUSHY, modern bidet company. We're aiming to revolutionize the North American bathroom and bring it up to speed to what other people are doing around the world, which is washing with water. So.
Yes. I love when we get to talk to Ren, which has happened a lot, and we'll get into that. But I particularly just want to talk about the partnership we did earlier this year, which is my favorite partnership we've ever done. We did a giveaway for our Instagram followers where they got a Terra Cafe machine and a Tushy bidet, and the whole theme was Dad's perfect morning routine because it was a Father's Day giveaway.
Yeah.
So I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
And
I think
coffee
there's
and bidets hand in
coffee
hand,
and
right?
bidets, right?
Natural combo.
Yeah. So we, like I said, I've been talking to Ren for, I don't know, I feel like forever, but I don't know, at least 5 years. And there are so many similarities between our product and our brand in weird ways and our customers. And I think, we in e-commerce, largely D2C e-commerce, what we see is a lot of brands that are low AOV, right? Or consumables or how many like probiotic sodas or dried meats or skincare.
Yep.
And there's a lot about, recurring revenue and just repeat purchasers. And I think one of the things that we've had in common for a long time is that our products, for the most part, are one and done. People spend, this pretty significant investment up front.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's not much in the way after that. We, of course, have our coffee subscription and you guys have your other bathroom products. But one of the things we hear over and over again, and I'd love your take on this, is that hardware is hard, right?
Yeah.
So what has been your experience? Is that a true statement?
Yeah, I think it's easy to get someone to buy something, but it's much harder to get them to adopt it, use it well, enjoy it, install it properly. Especially both of our products, we're changing culture, right? They've already been doing this thing a different way. And so we're trying to get them to change habits, which is really hard, and take on something totally new. And the expression, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, exists for a reason. And I think, hardware is hard, but it's the education, right? And getting people to change these habits. That's the really big thing of like making them understand what they've been doing before isn't the best way, or maybe is, in our case, totally barbaric, right?
Yes. This is true. Tushy, I do own and love a Tushy bidet.
Do we want to just also have Ren give a little bit of her background too?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then also share a little bit of the connecting thread between the two of you over the past several years?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so I came to Tushy in the toilet paper crisis of 2020 that impacted the US thanks to COVID. I'd been a Tushy user for a couple years before that. I lived in Mexico City. Yeah. For years, I lived in Latin America where bidets were ubiquitous, in fact, required by law. Like I lived in Argentina for 7 years, that until I think 1989, you had to have a bidet in your home. And I think it goes back to infrastructure of, if you're flushing a lot less toilet paper down the tubes, like the city is always better. And so when I left, I was like, oh my God, I'm never going to see a bidet again. And I got wind of this cool new company that you could attach it to your existing toilet. And so I got one, I brought it back with me to Mexico City and changed my life. But, it was just part of my daily routine. And then when this whole thing happened with the toilet paper crisis, we were like laughing in Mexico. Like people in Mexico were like, what is happening? Do like Americans get explosive diarrhea with COVID? Because in Mexico, they weren't hoarding toilet paper. And my husband jokingly said, oh, well, I'm sure you could get a job at Tushy if the shit really hits the fan, because we were building a travel startup that...
Good expression.
Yeah, it's perfect.
In the early days, I was like, this is not going to be a thing. And then a couple weeks later, I saw a support job listing for Tushy, sent an email in like when the shit hits the fan, and was kind of like, because I'd gone on the website and everything was totally sold out. And I was like, greatest thing that could happen to a company if they're set up for success, or it could be a nightmare. And so when I saw that job, I was like, oh, cool. Like I'll do this until like, the world comes back online in 2 weeks. And that was almost 6 years ago. So before this, I had been, I was a teacher for 10 years in Argentina, and then did that for a while when I moved back to the US in LA. I worked at a STEM after school program, and I taught elementary school at a bilingual school in East LA. I was the only non-native Spanish speaker teaching Spanish. So that was like I thought I would do that for the rest of my life. And then I got wind of startup life and transitioned to a farm to table local grocery company called Good Eggs, where I was one of their first like customer community care members. And that was like my first real CX job.
Okay.
Actually, false. My very first job ever, I worked at a call center when I was 16.
Oh my gosh.
So like I was doing like surveys for Kaiser Permanente and Coca-Cola, like these crazy surveys, like calling on a phone, like pre-internet, like 55 question surveys that take like an hour and a half, like crazy, like old school world of CX.
I know that this is not what we want to get into, but I am curious, is it as scripted as they make it seem in all the TV shows?
Yeah, I got fired for not, yeah. So I was,
Having small
I literally got fired. So I asked this woman, I remember patently, are you enjoying, scrubbing Bubbles bathroom cleaner? That was the survey. And she said, yeah. And I was supposed to ask a clarifying question. Is that a yes or a no? But because I'm a native English speaker and I was speaking to a native English speaker, we both understand that yeah means yes. Yeah. So I clicked yes. I didn't ask the clarifying question and I was fired for that.
No.
Falsifying surveys. The client was listening in and they fired me for that. And that
you went rogue, so that's understandable.
Yeah. So that like informed a lot of my current philosophy around being your authentic self, speaking your authentic voice, like really connecting with the human in an unscripted way. Yeah. So yeah.
And just out of curiosity, I'm so sorry.
No, it's all right. Go for it.
Just another quick clarifying question. So that role at Tushy that you saw that you ended up applying and, obviously starting with them was that like a head of CX or what was the architecture?
Agent.
Wow.
Entry level, like $17 an hour. Like, yeah. And I literally thought like, I'd been building this travel startup, Wavecation, for the previous year and a half, and I lived in Mexico. So I was like, okay, I'd spent all my savings on this. This happened, and it was like, how are we going to pay the rent? I was like, cool, I'll get this job. And then I got in there, and I was like, oh my God, there's so much to be done here.
Yes.
So that ramped up from agent. I was like, okay, can I do this? Can I do this? Can I do this?
We're the same person.
Yeah. And so by June, then I was leading, but like a very nascent department, like it didn't exist really.
Yep.
So
yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Like we were
the similarities.
I know it's crazy. So I'm curious. I mean, you've been with Tushy obviously since the very early days, and I think another thing our brands have in common, right? You're not the first bidet company. Right. We're not the first coffee company. Right. So how do you break into a field that already exists and talk to your potential customers in a way that makes you want them choose Tushy over whatever else is on Amazon or, in our case, Nespresso, Jura, et cetera. Yeah. How did that factor into how you built out the team?
So for us, bidets existed before, and the amount of brands that exist now post-COVID, there's 24 copies of Tushy any country you look at, right? Before that, there was much less. But for us, the main thing was people don't talk about this. They don't want to talk about this. Like if you have a baby or a dog, you talk about poop all day long, the consistency of it, the color of it.
Yes,
but like,
I can confirm.
If you are a human, like we're all doing it luckily every single day, but like nobody's talking about it. No, like we're like talking about the whites of our eyes and the curliness of our eyelashes, but like the main thing that tells you like about how you're feeling and you should be doing every day, like gut health, butt health, all this stuff, we don't talk about it at all. Yeah. And so we use humor to engage in those conversations. So like it started out, Tushy is now 11 years old. So I joined when we were like 5 years old. Still very, like people hadn't really heard of it. So in the early days before my time, it was going after niche audiences. Okay. So like Crohn's and IBS sufferers, people that are going to the bathroom a lot.
Sure.
Gay men, people that are engaging in anal sex and want to be really clean and are figuring out other ways to do this. So these really niche audiences, and then it grew. Like years ago, we had a co-branded bidet with Asa Akira. She was at the time the world's #1 anal porn star. It was like really going
That's
after
incredible.
these. Yeah, and like she chose the design, had her signature. Like. Just like these things that would like break the internet, push the culture, and we had like ButtCon, and we do all these things that were like so outlandish. Like we are a very small, scrappy company. Like we can't afford to do a lot of things, but we can always do a press release, right? So like let's try to break the internet and be a little bit scandalous to get this out there. Use humor to talk about things that people don't want to talk about. Like people aren't talking about bowel movements, but they're poop jokes and fart jokes. Everybody laughs at those. So like how can we get in with that and then use it as a tool to talk about other things. And I think before COVID, it used to be like, this is gross and disgusting. It's like, washing your body is gross and disgusting. Like, no. And so now we're in a different time. Like for, the first half of the company was just like informing people, what is a bidet? Like when I first started working there, and we had this toilet paper crisis that led to mass adoption in the US, basically because they couldn't get toilet paper. And so all of a sudden people were like, what can I do instead? Paper towels, right? Probably was the first thing, or tissues. Then it was like, okay, bidets. And that, thanks to COVID, like North America started thinking about this. But I think if it wasn't for that, for the toilet paper shortage that happened here, like it would have been a slower adoption. Because now, so at the time it'd be like, I don't know even how to say it. I want a bidet. I just want one of those things that squirts your butt, Like people don't know how to say it, but they're familiar with it. And now we're in a time where it's more like, which one is right for me? Like the culture has changed. There's still millions of households that need bidets, but I think a lot of it is making it accessible, not embarrassing, not shameful. 85% of Americans are going to suffer from inflamed hemorrhoids at some point in time.
Wow.
A bidet will help with that radically.
Oh
like, you're sitting on like a hemorrhoid donut at work. Like, that's embarrassing. A bidet is not embarrassing.
Yeah, you should target women who just had babies.
Yeah, that. Like, I can tell you like 25 value props of why a bidet is good. Like saves your septic system. You're not wiping your ass with like virgin forest trees. Like there's. Toilet paper is it's barbaric. Toilet paper is the most expensive consumer good. You're flushing it down the toilet. This doesn't make any sense. And so I think, it's showing people common sense things, but it's also understanding that these changes are hard. And we equate it to like a cell phone. I don't know if you guys remember this, but it was like, don't need a cell phone. You don't need a cell phone. I don't need a cell phone. Like I can just call people. I can email them. And you don't need it, but your life is way better with it. Like I know I was an English teacher running around class to class to class. I had a day where every single class was canceled, but I didn't have a cell phone, so I didn't know, right? And so it's like,
wow,
what are you doing in your life that could be optimized, but they're not seeing it anywhere. And I think that's our biggest thing too, is barrier to trial, right? And probably for you guys as well.
Yep.
So just a very quick, interesting strategy question, because you touched on the fact that this is a product that it has a different sense or perception abroad, and from a general adoption, maybe is more broadly accepted in other countries versus the US. And then you're telling the story about the early days of how you launched the business, grew it, and whether that's, provocative marketing or, a macro shift like the pandemic or what have you. Is going international part of the TUSHY strategy, just given there's already a general acceptance? Is it different from a saturation or just like the amount of competition that would live in those markets just by virtue of the fact that the product is more widely accepted? Or is that not as much the strategy, which, I'm saying that also recognizing that we're similarly staged startups. So there's always kind of like a bandwidth and just, discipline around like the crawl, walk, run of expanding into new markets or new products. But I'm just curious, has that been something that's discussed heavily internally?
I think now we're looking again at re-expansion. When I first joined TUSHY in 2020, we shipped to every country around the world.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So, but that was a challenge. That was me documenting threading size and which T adapters fit in every part of the world.
Yeah.
It was insanity. And also really learning like cultural differences. In France, like they won't leave your package at the door, In Sweden, like they're going to be mad about everything always, it's cultural, or like just these things of like, wow, navigating all of this. And so we dialed things back a couple years ago, and rethinking that. We're now in the US, Canada, Australia. Australia has always been a strong market for us. They're really into, washing the right way. And expanding to other countries, through different channels of distribution, Amazon. But I think as things change, the other big complication there is duties and import fees and all of these things of navigating all that and making sure that's set up properly, because you don't want to ship it halfway around the world and it come back, right?
Yeah. It's also a segue into, one of the things we wanted to talk about, which is just like you would have to manage that from the customer relationship end of things, which is like all those different markets, different languages, different perceptions of the product and knowledge on how to use it.
Yeah.
Hardware is already hard enough as it is. Yeah. Then you're the one in the seat that has to basically manage that installed base, right?
Yeah. I mean, it was literally like early days, because I've lived in multiple countries abroad, and my experience abroad, different from the US, where we're very reliant on like the big box hardware stores. Yeah. they would say, which adapter do I need? And I was like, why don't you just take your Tushy to your local hardware shop on the corner
Right.
and show them what you have, and they will be able to match the thing. Because that's what I would do, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's like, I could give a lot of advice, but some of it is like pulling on different cultural functionality of different countries, right? Like, you know, in France, you have this on the corner. In Italy, in the US, you don't have that, you know? You have to drive an hour maybe to the big box store, where I think, yeah, like we did our damnedest to try to like match everything, but you know, you might be dealing with the toilet that was installed in 1700s or something.
Right,
so
right.
like, yeah. I think that's the crazy thing is like some parts of the world, the plumbing is really, 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 really old, and so it's like, yeah.
You sounded like you were going to ask a question.
I have so
I
many
know, I
questions
do
to
too. It's
ask.
okay.
I'm just,
It's okay.
I mean, more so, or more than a question, it's just the reaction, because it's just so crazy, the things that you've had to manage through. And obviously, like, we've been, you know, in close contact for a long time. And I've also been, you know, close with the, you know, rest of the leadership team at Tushy. But it's just, it's super interesting that you actually did the international expansion and then kind of pulled it back for purposes of making sure that the quality of the experience, everything was kind of optimized for the end user. Yeah. And it's interesting to me because I guess it makes my mind naturally springboard into like how has the overall risk tolerance and the approach to building the business changed over the years? And obviously, specifically within your purview, I imagine you're a fan of really focusing on a few key markets as opposed to trying to cast such a wide net and then trying to shoot in all the different directions. But naturally, I just imagine like there must be a pretty big strategic shift internally in terms of how you all want to edit down the strategy, pare it down into the most meaningful parts, and how has that shifted your role internally, like how you've looked at it? I think that's just where my mind goes is you had to manage all that. Did you play a huge role in the decision making around that? What did that look like in terms of internal conversations?
Yeah, I think I'm very liberal with my opinions. So yeah, and I think I've gotten much better over the years of really leading with data. Like, I have no problem sharing dissent with anyone, but what I didn't always have the tools for was showing the data, right? And I think that's what I've gotten really good at. Like, I don't need to be the loudest voice in the room if I can just show the results. And I think, and in my own experience building businesses, like I've learned like focusing on one niche market, one geo, and then expanding out to have like these ambassador super fans that have all had an incredible experience instead of just like putting it out there and crossing your fingers. And that's what I was also feeling too, is like these people aren't having the experience that I want to have, you know? Right. And I want them all to have an easy install experience, to be able to get the spare parts from us, for it to be a fast shipping experience. And if it's going to be like clunky and we have to bend over backwards for every customer, like it's not efficient on the labor side and the cost side, but it's also like it's annoying for the customer. And so it was thinking about it in that way, like pull it back to make it better so that the Tushy experience in any country or in any store is the same, right? And I think that's the other thing that I've navigated the most, or like going through now, is like what happens when you move from D2C to omni-channel distribution and like you don't have control over the customer, right?
Yes.
So,
It does. You know why we sell our machines on Amazon and retailers, and with the TK2, it's a little bit easier because it's a connected machine. So when a customer provisions their machine and they connect it to their app, we have the first party data. We know who they are. We can better help them. With the Demi, which is the machine we just launched, it's not connected. So I almost feel like, oh God, like I feel like I'm in the dark ages. I don't know what's happening until they reach out to us. But I am curious, with Tushy in general, very much like our product, it's something that if people have it, they're using it every day.
Oh, yeah.
Right? They use it every day. If it stops working, it's a problem. It interferes with a major part of their daily routine. So at Tushy, what role does customer feedback or insight play into, processes, product development, all of it?
Yeah. At this point, it's fundamental. Like feedback loops, without it, like we couldn't continually iterate on the product. And I think that's what I want everyone to know and understand about Tushy. They're like, why is this so much more expensive than the other brands? Because of me and my team, because of our product engineering team, because of our QA engineer, like the constant iteration on the product. Like these are not plastic widgets off a line that are supposed to break in 9 months, so you buy one every year. Like that is not our intention, and we can only get better through collecting that customer feedback.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really figuring out systems and structures to get those to the right places. Like, what does our marketing team need to share out as the value props or the watch outs or things that, like, we don't want to just sell baby sell if they're all going to return, right? And I think that's a thing that a lot of brands miss. Like, sales in, it's not the greatest if everybody's going to return. And so like, how do you strike that balance between education and like marketing speak, but also like transparency of, you know, how can we support you through this? And I think as that's evolved, like return rate, refund rate is something I keep a really close eye on. And I can tell you all the reasons for every model of why. But then, you know, we're in a really beautiful time too with AI. You can marry quantitative and qualitative data. Because before it'd be like, I'd be sharing out these anecdotes and they're like, it's anecdotal. I'm like, yeah, but now I can show you like how many are linked here. And I think that's what's really fun. But for us too, and maybe you guys experience this as well, it's being able to read between the lines. Because like the top reason is it's leaking. Like, of course, you're unplugging your water to put this in. Like, but does that mean a defect? And that's the like being able to understand what is truly a defect versus what is just, you installed something with water and keep an eye on it, but like it's fine and this is par for the course.
Yeah. And was the prioritization of customer insight, was that something that has just always inherently been in the Tushy culture? Or was that something that you had to kind of advocate for over the years and build out?
Well, our co-founder, Justin, like he is very, very like in touch with, he was the original CXer, like he was me before I joined. And like, that is at the heart of our company. And I think that's at the heart of any good product company.
100%.
Like you have to have a strong product, but you have to listen to your customers to make sure that the product you're building isn't not just what you guys want or what you're actually, And so we've always kept our ear close to the ground, but now I feel like it's much more data centric, you know, because you share like a really crazy customer story, but it's one, you know, it's statistically insignificant. So like that was painful for them, but being able to quantify it. And I think, getting the whole team on board of like figuring out how to track these things. And, you know, there's great financial benefit, not just to the end consumer, but to the company of being able to push these things back to your manufacturer, to, you know, all the partners, you know, the fulfillment partners along the way. Like if we're doing everything perfect and they're dropping the ball, like, and we track that, like these are all things that will make for a richer company experience and smoother customer journey.
God, I know you got one.
I honestly, I mean, the question you just asked, I mean, the thing that was kind of percolating to the surface for me was I was just curious how the culture shifted over the years, taking all of the things you just said into account. Like, how has that evolved?
Well, I think a lot more focus and expertise, like people that have come from other companies that have done this before that I've learned from. You know, when I first joined, it was our head of marketing. Before that, he produced gay porn movies, you know, like, and he was our lead growth marketer. He was amazing at it, but it was like, it was early days of Tushy and everybody was learning. It was very much startup culture. And now, instead of each person wearing 7 hats, it's like, no, we have someone that's like hyper focused on this. And we're still small and scrappy, but I think it's, everything has to have a purpose, and it also goes back to finance, right? Like I think that was the major evolution, is pulling in ahead of finance and all of us thinking with unit economics at the top of our head. Like, and I think that's the thing that a lot of companies lose sight of like being able to have a sales forecast, understanding the exact cost of your product and what your return rate is. Does that line up with unit economics? Because you might have sold a shit ton, but if they're all going to return, like that's, you've lost money.
Do you have a preference for one culture versus the other?
I think I've, like, when I first started having to do like a lot of decks, you know, like everything I present before, I'd be like, okay, can we do this? And I'd be like, yeah. And I was like, make a deck about this. And I'd be like, oh my God, this is work for work's sake. But being in this time where we do building blocks, which are like OKRs, you know, like that process rolled out maybe 3 years ago. And at first it was like, oh my God, is this like Amazon or Google? Like, I don't need to do a book report. This is crazy. But radical prioritization, I know, is the key to success for a company. And I think before it was kind of like we're all over the place. And now it's like, no, we're focused on these things. And we've even seen that reduce, like how many building blocks we work on a year. And it's like, hyper focus, and I think it's doing more with less, but also prioritization.
Last question for me. Just we obviously have known each other for a while and we swap notes a lot, but just curious, do you have a brand that you look at as kind of a gold standard of CX, or, who you look to aspirationally?
Let's see.
And it doesn't have to
yeah.
be in its entirety. It could be an element of one brand too.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Well, I'm not a consumer, which is a crazy thing to like work in the consumer world, but there's a few products that like I love. If we're looking at like a brand, I love like just like the experience from the outside. I love Vacation Sunscreen.
Oh, so good.
They're like writing from the voice of like the 1980s and like you are pulled into their world. I think that is really compelling of just like you're an architect of this like 1980s Miami Vice kind of thing. Yeah. I think as far as just like a smooth experience, like Dyson, I think is like no frills, but like I ordered one recently, like during the Black Friday sale, and it was there, like it was super smooth, like no bells or whistles, right? But just like met expectations. And I think that's what like the companies I think, well, what I think about emulating is like the Vitamixes, the Dysons, these products that they're not built on marketing. It's like they've existed for 50 years or gonna exist for 50 years and just solid through and through. And that's what I think about, like as a non-consumer, like I wanna buy something once and it lasts for a really long time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, last question, because otherwise we're going to be here all day.
Yeah.
We could be here all day. In your opinion, what is the single most important quality for somebody to have to thrive at a company of Tushy stage or Terra Cafe stage?
Flexibility, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like a curiosity mindset,
Absolutely.
like being open, curious to learn, because my role 5 years ago was not my role now. Yeah. And I think, when you have an open mindset, it's just like a fun playground to do some cool shit. And but also being flexible, because things don't always go the way you anticipated, and you might not have the manpower, the resources to do it. So like, being scrappy.
Yeah. I think you call that meeting the moment.
Meeting the moment. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I love that as just like a final takeaway, because
Absolutely.
we're very friendly with a lot of brands in e-com, but Kate and I spend a lot of time in particular focusing on the durables brands, because there are unique challenges with something that actually you purchase and it stays there. It isn't a consumed and gone type of journey.
Yeah.
It's harder, the expectations look different, and then as a startup, you try and thread this needle between, you want to have really good quality, you want to have a compelling price point, you want the user experience to be easy, but you also want to make it as customizable or personalized as possible. If there's all these conflicting things you have to figure out, and then we have these conversations where we use the data, we talk about anecdotal evidence, we try and quantify as much as possible. But anybody that has been operating a startup, and especially a startup in the durable space over the last, let's call it like 7-8 years, has gone through so many tectonic plates shifting underneath your feet. If you're not flexible or adaptable, you probably aren't around anymore.
No.
And the people that are also around that make up the organization, that is frankly the culture, it is the success or failures of the organization, I think is what's so important to understand, like what it takes to kind of make it, I guess.
Yeah.
Or meeting the moment.
Yeah.
But, I think it's really good advice for virtually anybody, whether you're leading the organization or joining one, to take into consideration, because you can't control what happens on a macro level, but you can certainly use your agility to your advantage as an early stage startup.
Yeah, like Kate and I, I think in the hot seat, you have to like fighting fires, right? And,
absolutely.
And like, it sucks when these things happen, but also like, you get off on it of like, I solved this problem of like, oh my God, like this is like this holiday season, like everything's going a little too smooth. Like,
right? I know. I'm like, where's the problem? Where's the problem? I know.
Yeah, I mean, we've been liaising since for like 5 years. And it's just like, it's so nice to have an ally in this.
God.
When we started shipping and you were like, they're not like any like fire drills. Like, happening. Like, I want...
like when you do really good, when you're used to this, and then when things go well, you're like, wait, what's wrong?
Oh God, you feel okay. I'm in the eye of the hurricane. I'm in the eye of the hurricane. Like maybe there's just not a storm.
Exactly.
There's a bull in the china shop, and it's just a little too quiet.
But I think it's like ever evolving. Like 5 years ago, you were probably doing like tagging reports and ticket fields and spending hours doing manual reporting. Now it's like we look at an AI dashboard and it's like,
incredible.
Cool, slick. Now I can focus on
It's crazy, right? I know. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you
Thank you
so
guys, yeah.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do a 10-part series with you.
Yeah. Talking shit with Tushy and Tara Cafe.
Yes. Perfect.
Yeah.
Love it.
All right. Thanks everyone for watching. We'll see you soon.
Thanks. Bye.